Good morning. Glad to have you with us. Let us pray. Almighty God, Father above us, Father all around, Father within us. We thank you, Lord, for your grace and your mercy. We thank you, Lord, for this proceeding, and we ask that you bless us and bless the presenters and the persons who will listen and participate and learn. Help us, Lord, as we learn more to make this world that you have created a better place. Help us as we go along with our learning to implement things that will make others, your people, your children, better off. These mercies we ask in the wonderful and precious name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Thanks, Gordon. That was Gordon Brown, coordinator of public at the Consumer and Public Affairs Department at the OUR. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, regional partners, esteemed colleagues, presenters, friends, viewers, and listeners all, good morning. Welcome to the first of 2 days of AI, Unlocking the Power of AI, Shaping the Future of Utilities Regulation. This workshop will address a subject matter that has been on the lips of just about everyone lately, especially since November 2022, when ChatGPT first burst on the scene. My name is Colleen Mignot, Coordinator for the Office of Utilities Regulations Information Center, OURIC, and Information Officer for the OUR. Before I go any further, I'd like to take this opportunity to wish all my colleagues, fellow librarians and information officers a happy National Library and Information Week. Keep up the good work, guys. Now, artificial intelligence is a revolutionary technological advancement that has been taking the world by storm with the prospect of reshaping the way that we interact with information, the way we seek assistance, and the way we carry out work processes. Much of its claims has been the subject of serious debate. Today, as the Utilities Regulatory Authority in Jamaica, it is our job and indeed responsibility to engage discussions with experts on behalf of our many stakeholders. Yes, it's our turn. We need to know what's in it for us. As a regulatory body, we are interested in any emerging system with the capacity to revolutionize the industry and assist with some of the challenges faced, including the urgency to embrace more dynamic, data-driven decision-making, to find approaches that balance effective regulatory oversight with responsible resource management and financial stability, and to provide innovative customer-centric solutions. We need to know about any system that exists to maximize reliability and efficiency in the delivery of the essential services that we rely on daily: energy, water and sewerage, and telecommunications. Someone who can speak definitively to this is our own Director General at the OUR, Mr. Ansett Hewitt. We invite him now to give his opening remarks.
Thank you very much, Colleen. Regional partners and colleague regulators, members of the office, OUR executives, members of staff, representatives of the media, ladies and gentlemen. Mine is the easiest of tasks today. I have not been asked to define AI, to explain the complexities of the algorithms it utilizes, the moral, ethical, and legal issues it raises, the fears and the hopes it engenders, and the potential efficiencies and economic benefits that it promises. I have also not been asked to provide a telescopic view of the relationship between AI and regulation. Rather, I've been asked to simply extend welcome on behalf of the OUR to you. Now, I am mindful that the assignment of this simple task may very well be an indication of their own assessment of the assessment of my colleagues of the limits of my capabilities on the subject. But why look a gift horse in the mouth? I will simply proceed to the assigned task. I am delighted to see the persons that have taken the time to attend this event online. I am also elated to see our regional colleagues, both from the utilities and the regulators. And of course, mention was made of our information professionals. They have all joined us today. It is known that the OUR is big on pursuing initiatives that promote regional cooperation, mutual exchanges, and the sharing of information. So I extend to you a special welcome. I also welcome our presenters who will be sharing their knowledge and expertise with us on the subject. The OER is fortunate to have been able to put together such a stellar panel of experts to discuss this topic over the next 2 days. Also, to the wider audience of professionals, including counterpart regulators, academics, students, regulatory practitioners, and other colleagues, I say welcome too. I would like to offer commendation to the OER's Information Center for the farsightedness and relevance of this initiative. I also make special mention of our coordinator, OURIC, Information Officer, Ms. Colleen Mignot, who both championed and drove this initiative. The workshop is consistent with the OER's commitment to foster dialogue and promote public education in matters that are both transformational and critical to the experience of the constituents we serve. We are of the view that a good regulator will take every opportunity to leverage the benefits of technology to deliver greater welfare benefits to utility customers. To the extent that AI holds out the possibility of delivering added benefits to consumers, we consider it an imperative to inform ourselves of those benefits and to put ourselves in the best position to leverage those benefits in the interests of the public and consumers in particular. At the same time, we're also mindful that, as with any other technology, AI can also be used to abuse consumers. It follows that, consistent with our mandate, we will need to be vigilant as a regulator to prevent or mitigate such outcomes. I encourage participants to engage vigorously over the next 2 days by asking provocative and challenging questions, providing informed comments, and listening with an open mind. I hope that you'll find the offerings of this workshop to be a mind feast. Once again, welcome and best wishes for a rewarding workshop. And by the way, I'll leave you with a question. Do you think this welcome was generated by ChatGPT? Thank you very much.
Thank you, DG. And now we have a special treat for you. Here to bring greetings from Incus Services Limited in Trinidad is Director of AI, Analytics and Automation, Leslie Lee Fook. I did say Incus Services Limited. Yes. He is, this is a company that provides cutting-edge AI analytics, automation, and cybersecurity solutions that help organizations to adapt data strategies for data-driven decision-making. Mr. Fook, over to you.
So good morning, buenos dias, bonjour, goedemorgen, and wagwan to my friends from Jamaica. I hope everyone is doing well after that little shake-up yesterday. And I see we have tons of people on YouTube, so I'd love to be able to interact with you guys. So hi, Timothy, hi, Mo, Orlando, how you guys are doing? So excited to be here at this transformative 2-day workshop. How many guys agree that, time is our most valuable resource? So I want to acknowledge everyone for taking time out of their busy schedules to attend here today with us. We know how valuable time is, so the team and I will do everything within our power to make sure it's well worth your time. I'd love to poll a quick question, and feel free to use the chat, whether you're on YouTube or you're on Zoom. How many of you already use AI within your own organizations? Give me a 1 if you already use AI within your organization. Give me a 2 if if you still haven't started your journey. Love to see it. All right, beautiful. Thanks, guys. Lovely. It is. Right, nice. So whether you're already using AI within your organization or you're just starting that journey, whether you're a regulator, utility, ministry, agency, librarians, or just a member of the public, by the end of the workshop, what you'll be able to do is become more effective and more efficient with AI. You'll discover the ethical considerations before you start deploying AI. You'll be able to strengthen your regulatory compliance and monitoring and improve customer experience overall so that you could stay ahead of the curve. How many guys would love to stay ahead of the curve? Lovely. So generative AI is the most important, I believe, technological event of our lifetime. Of our lifetime. It's massive. The emergence of generative AI has been nothing short of a black swan event. This unexpected rare occurrence with profound and wide-ranging implications is reshaping the regulatory landscape. Today, we'll delve into how generative AI is enabling regulatory professionals to redefine their roles, to enhance decision-making capabilities, and to contribute more significantly towards sustainable practices. Since we'll be spending some time together with it, would it be okay, guys, if I shared a little bit about my journey? Sean is going to go into the heavy technical stuff, but I want to share about some of the challenges that I face and how AI helped me so that you could learn from my mistakes. Would that be okay if I shared? Great, thank you. So after helping hundreds of companies and mentoring thousands of people to solve million-dollar problems with data, I'd love to walk you through what I discovered across industries with people at basically all skill levels. I'm Leslie, a thought leader in AI, and I'm a data millionaire. I'm not greedy, but this is my number. When I get to this number, I'll retire. When most people think about me, this is what they see. You see me with government leaders, with presidents, prime ministers, CEOs, captains of industry, and sometimes celebrities. Any Beanie Man fans here today? Cool. Well, unfortunately, it wasn't always like this. So COXX. It's an acronym that means a lot to me, and it's actually my A-level results. You see, I dropped out of secondary school. How many of you guys know that you could get an X at A-levels? I actually got 2. I got an X in math, and if you look at the results, I didn't even ever do computer science. My point is I didn't start off with anything that would allow me to have a successful career in data. And how many guys already think today that you need to be a data scientist to use AI? What I did know, though, is that how important data-driven decision makings were and how that AI was ultimately going to be the future. So around about 2018, I already had a well-established practice in data analytics, and I want to expand into AI. So I set out to understand how could I get into data science, even though I couldn't code, even though I couldn't program. And I heard about this company that invented a new space called automated machine learning. Essentially, they were giving regular people like me data science capabilities. So I enrolled in some training, and there was no training except for this internal class that was coming up. And it was a special class for their growing sales team. So I begged to get in, and that was perfect because they were going to group me together with tons of salespeople who, in my opinion, weren't that technical. So I went in a day early to register, and the lady at the counter, she said, "Your accent sounds familiar. Where are you from?" And I don't look like the typical Caribbean person. So I said Trinidad, not expecting her to know anything. But she said, "Oh, there's a guy from Trinidad working here." And she introduced me to Justin. So Justin and I got to chatting, and that's when I really realized that there aren't that many Caribbean voices when it comes to AI. So I jumped into the class. It was a 5-day class where they were onboarding the entire sales team. And by about a day and a half into the class, I was completely overwhelmed. And it was only over a water cooler type conversation that I realized that the minimum requirement to even sell this product was a master's in statistics. That wasn't me. But I stuck through the class, and at lunchtime on day 5, they said to go to Kaggle. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Kaggle, but Kaggle is this online data science competition that attracts the best data scientists in the world. So, for example, Netflix will post a data set, and they would say, "Hey, $1 million to the data scientist produces the best model for this particular problem." So on day 5 after lunch, he said, "Go to Kaggle, download a data set, put it into the platform, and just hit this big start button." So that's what I did. I downloaded it, set the hit the start button, and I came back 30 minutes later. I took the results and I put it back into Kaggle. And that day, I was ranked the 51st best data scientist in the world because I could hit a big start button. So I came back home, I was super excited, and by 2018, we had expanded into AI across the territory, and we started to train data citizens across the Caribbean, from the Caribbean Actuaries Association, financial services sector, and life was great. And then this happened. And the whole world went into lockdown. Now, fortunately, this wasn't the first time, this wasn't my first rodeo, and it wasn't terrible for me at first, but I've been working remotely since 2015, but for many people on the team, this was a massive adjustment. And as time went on, this is pretty much what the team encountered. Lots of mental health issues, and we saw a massive dip in performance. I mean, how many of you guys experienced the same within your own organizations? At the time, I had three choices. One, I could get rid of the entire team. Two, I could beat people into submission. Or three, I could find a better way for people to work. And that's what we did. So given our background in AI, we started to acquire and develop AI that was good at just one single individual task, so that the team, their now individual tasks could be AI augmented. They could produce the same results with a lot less effort, and performance, it skyrocketed. The team was now able to focus on more strategic objectives. At the same time, we were placing a lot of effort into processes and developing SOPs for pretty much everything. Have you ever heard the saying, process will set you free? So we developed workflows and SOPs for everything within the organization. And what do you think happened next? Now that we had processes and we had workflows and AI that could perform individual tasks, we just connected our AI together and we created fully autonomous processes. We inadvertently developed a robot army. And today, it's my humble opinion that we're about 7 years ahead of the market. For every one person in an organization, there are 10 AIs. And we've acquired and developed over 200 AI systems that are supporting us across all areas of the organization. That's how we've been able to scale and still maintain service excellence. So you're probably wondering, what does this have to do with you? The answer is everything. Anyone ever done any time management training or any productivity training? You would have probably encountered something called time blocking, right? But a typical knowledge worker, they work for 8 hours a day. And what time blocking suggests is that you do one task per hour. So you do 5 to 8 tasks over the entire day. At the end of the year, you've done 9,600 tasks. We are now able to automate over 10,000 tasks a day. The job for one person for an entire year, we do every single day. We added 365 people to our team without impacting payroll. Our Robot Army 18x our workforce. What if you did this in your own organization? What would that do for your organization? What would that do for your customers, your citizens, your stakeholders? So today our company has continued to grow. We pivoted just from a very small infrastructure company serving small and medium-sized businesses just in Trinidad to now regional leaders in the AI space. And we now serve the biggest and the best enterprise organizations across the entire Caribbean with an exponentially larger addressable market. I mention this not to brag, but to say, if you want, this could be your story as well. Ask yourself, do you prefer to be the magnet or do you prefer to be the filings? My 3 big takeaways, guys, and this is really what I want to share with you, is that you need to be resilient in these times because your current circumstances, they don't define your future. AI is not complicated. I still can't program. I still can't code. I'm not great at math. You don't need to be a data scientist to use AI today. And lastly, AI will exponentially make you more effective and more efficient. It's predicted that over the next few years, AI will impact 80% of jobs. So if you keep an eye on the third line down, it's test results for Uniform Bar exam. It's the exam that some lawyers take to become lawyers. And in November of 2022, there's a model that was released called GPT 3.5. And when GPT 3.5 was released, it ranked in the bottom 10th percentile of lawyers when it sat the uniform bar exam. About 5 months later, the bigger brother or sister version of that model, GPT-4, was released 5 months later. And that same exam was taken by the new AI, and it now ranked in the top 90th percentile, right? In 5 months. My point is AI is getting smart, and it's getting smart fast. And this is the worst AI will ever be. So even highly skilled jobs will be replaced someday. So how do you stay ahead of the curve? Ultimately, you've probably heard AI won't replace you. It's the people that know how to use AI that will. And what you'll discover over the next 2 days is you'll explore how this black swan event of AI is, and its ripple effects, for regulators. You'll discover how your workforce could confidently step into a new era of accelerated transformation. Like the unexpected appearance of a black swan, generative AI can come into our region as a surprise, but it has unquestionably become a powerful catalyst for change. Let's embrace this change and use it to foster a sustainable future. Let's remember that in the face of black swan events, there lies not only challenges, but also immense opportunities. It's up to us to leverage these opportunities for betterment of our industry and our people. The black swan has landed, and it's our time to harness its transformative power. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fook. Thanks for giving us that challenge. We're truly grateful for your contribution. Something I'm sure that many of our participants have in common is this question. Does unlocking AI truly hold the promise of influencing the future of regulation? In our midst, we have an expert who will take us on a journey of discovery to explore AI's potential to do just that. His name is Sean Thorpe. Professor Thorpe, as I know him, is Dean of the Faculty of Engineering and Computing and immediate past head of computing and IT at the University of Technology, UTech, Jamaica. He holds a PhD and MSc and BSc degrees in information security and computer science from UTech, University of Westminster, London, and the University of the West Indies, Mona. He's past president of the Jamaica Computer Society, 2009 recipient of the Fulbright Visiting Faculty Scholarship Award to Harvard University, where he conducted collaborative research work in cybersecurity. He's a 2014 University Presidential Research Award Fellow at UTech, recipient of the American National Science Foundation Award for Research in Cloud Computing and Data Mining. He volunteers as program chair for the Institute of Electronics Engineer IEEE Security and Privacy Conference USA, and has been senior IEEE member since 2017. He also serves the Association of Computing Machinery, ACM. I'm pretty sure you'll all have lots of questions at the end of his session, so prepare to be immersed in the next hour in this presentation. Professor, over to you.
A warm and pleasant good morning, and here from Kingston, Jamaica. All protocols observed, and my regards from the university community here at the University of Technology, Jamaica. So we are here to discuss a very important topic. I'll just load my slide deck momentarily. So artificial, and I would like to thank my colleagues for inviting me here from the OUR to make these presentations over the next 2 days. I don't want to say this morning we'll be running a lecture. I want to say that we'll be running a conversation more than it is a lecture. The space of artificial intelligence is the hallmark of what we describe as the Industry 5 revolution relating to technologies. We have gone from Industry 1, 2, all the way to 5, where artificial intelligence is the hallmark of 5. All services within any industry, mechanized or otherwise, are driven by the use of artificial intelligence. So we'll have a conversation this morning because I can easily be tempted to conduct a lecture, and that's not what it is, coming from the academia today. The particular introduction here to artificial intelligence technologies is one where we recognize that you are mimicking machine intelligence as a function of human intelligence. So the human being's intelligence is now passed to a computer. And the regular tasks that would primarily be conducted by human beings are now being effected by machines. Is this to say that the machines are more intelligent than human beings? No. What it means is that we now have an augment in the process relating to how humans are able to fast track the speed of thought and action and outcomes relating to what they have before them. So my task this morning is to provide you with a courtesy breakdown of the basic definitions and then move into an argument of how we use the AI to generate meaningful outcomes for the industry and the tasks that are before us. By definition, what we find is that artificial intelligence, in its ability to help us learn, understand, and to think, we have two specific areas in which it is divided. You have what is called narrow artificial intelligence, or what we call narrow AI, and we have what is called general artificial intelligence, or what you call general AI. So let's qualify this a little bit more carefully. Narrow artificial intelligence looks very carefully at what we call expert systems, the ability to design very specific tasks. So for example, image recognition in your biometric reader systems, natural language processing, which we'll demonstrate a little bit of that today, and autonomous driving. You know, you have a lot of self-driving cars that are now coming out on the road. Soon enough, Jamaica will start having these type of vehicles. General AI refers more specifically to how human-like intelligence can actually be applied across a wide space of situations. It's still a topic of research, actually, based on where we are in this industry. So let me step back for a moment and give you some basic pointers. Artificial intelligence is significant in various industries. AI is quite far-reaching as it relates to spaces in education, healthcare, finance, manufacture, retail, transportation, and of course, utilities, which is the function of the Office of the Utilities Regulation. Therefore, the space is very impacting. And hence, in a research and university-based setting, we could be spending significant time, as we have started doing, looking at work in these various areas by way of the application of artificial intelligence. So the courtesy of point is that the primary function of the machine is to mimic human cognitive functions. That's a very important point. Mimicking human cognitive functions. And whilst we mimic human cognitive functions, let's do a deeper dive as to what that means. These cognitive functions are divided into looking at the ability to replicate various aspects of our traditional thinking. The replication of that traditional thinking, and to keep the language pretty simple, is tied to the fact that the AI is able to manifest itself as machine learning algorithms. That human cognitive function manifests itself as what we call natural language processing. So hence, what you're finding is that it is taking the basic elements of the human cognitive function and starting to define them. Machine learning, by the way, manifests itself in what is called also deep learning, which I'll come to next. But the machine has the ability to be trained using algorithms that we do in computer sciences to harness the power of the data to improve the performance of how we think with time. It also allows us to have those conversations where we can actually have language conversations that generate human understanding, for example, using chatbots. Chatbots, for example, in my view, is somewhat a step down from what we are now seeing with the generative AI. But what the chatbots do, they help to also build virtual conversations for the workplace and for all types of industries and sectors. Computer vision is another element of that human cognitive function. So as I seek to explain these things, each of these areas could be a workshop in themselves, just to be clear. So computer vision empowers the machines to really interpret and analyze visual information that is before you, and hence using that image analysis to provide recognition and assessments given particular tasks. Just think of biometric readers and CCTV camera systems that are in our markets today. They are built on the premise of computer vision. There's also speech recognition, and this is also something that we are seeing quite prevalent in our market today. It's pervasive now, in that it enables machines to make the necessary conversions to text format. It powers voice. So, for example, tools like Siri and Alexa, which you might be quite familiar with, are examples of this. Then there's robotics as another space. Robotics very specifically combines AI with the physical machine capabilities to create those tasks ranging from manufacturing to healthcare. So in those large industrial plants where you have lots of goods to move from point A to B, you have what we call humanoid robots that are capable of carrying out those various tasks. So this is really an exciting field, which over the last 2 generations, it's over 60 years, a lot of work has been happening in terms of the build-out. Interestingly, now that we are in 2023, many of the things that we are talking about today and the things that are manifesting themselves were actually a prediction that they would not happen until 10 years from today. So therefore, in 2023, we are seeing an uptick on the use of most of these areas that I'm describing in such a significant way that it is actually pushing us far on the needle in terms of the capabilities of what automated machines are able to provide. So AI's evolution and impact has been very significant. What we are finding that human cognitive function I described earlier is really nothing more than a replacement of those neural nets in your brain. In computer science, we describe those neural nets as neural networks, and now represents a new strand of the machine's ability to learn in what we call deep learning. AI has become quite transformative as it relates to opportunities for innovation and problem solving. The university, which I'm a part of, has now been rocked by its foundations, no pun intended, and that rocking of the foundation is one where we are seeing a proliferation of AI tools that can inform the teaching and learning process, as well as it is informing students' abilities to complete projects and assessments. You may debate the fact that there are some ethical issues there, but the viewpoint of many of us in the academia is that it is transformative because it will fast track the learning processes, particularly from the perspective of critical thinking. Artificial intelligence, ladies and gentlemen, particularly since the pandemic, has replaced an entire industry of what we traditionally call business process outsourcing. Today, this industry is actually referred to as your knowledge process outsourcing industry. Where we have a knowledge process outsourcing industry, it means that the higher order cognitive functions of what a tier 1 teller or customer service representative would do on a shop floor is now undertaken by the AI or an agent, as we describe that, the AI agent. And hence, the tasks that are faced by many of these service companies is now becoming transformative, because what you're having is that the humans who drive those functions are humans who will now need to understand how to interact, to tweak, to program, to maintain, and upgrade the AI as a part of the service offering to the public. This is now referred to as the knowledge process outsourcing industry. And we at the University of Technology pride ourselves in building out the first STEM KPO as a part of our new programs in artificial intelligence. So to keep the language very clear and avoid going into too many specifics as if I'm giving you a test or an exam, let's do a further assessment of some of the key elements of artificial intelligence and its related technologies. Generative artificial intelligence is really what we call a specialized subset of artificial intelligence. It allows us to create data and content for text almost real time, making decisions and classifying that information. I'll do a short lab demonstration in a few minutes just to actually harness what the capabilities of these definitions mean to you. The key components of generative AI, very specifically, is the ability of the machine to function as what we call a generator, and the ability of the machine to function as what we call a discriminator. So let's take each in turn. The ability of the machine to function as a generator is simply looking at creating content real time through this neural networking of the machines. And these neural networking of the machines will allow us to provide that data in such a manner that is clear, coherent, and consistent using that generator principle. This generator, interestingly, is based on what is now described as the transformer-based architecture of these computers. And these transformer-based architecture of the computers today are described as your generative pre-trained transformer. So you have a device that can actually quickly churn out content in a coherent, clear manner, which allows you to keep conversations as if you're talking to another human being. The discriminator element of the AI evaluates the content generated by this generator and provides feedback. So let us pause for a moment and demonstrate by example what I am saying. I will stop sharing my screen momentarily and move over to the use of the AI that simulates the same. I heard Leslie referring earlier in his presentation to ChatGPT 3 and 4. This represents one of the generators that are quite available to us in the market today under a community called OpenAI, which since the last year has become available to the entire public, has been hitting the community by storm. I would argue that it is used more today than Google search engines. So let's do this. Please create, so at the prompt that I have before me, and the principle here is called prompting, please let us create a strategy for the OUR in Jamaica and its use of AI. What are you saying? You're saying that the machine can in fact allow the directorship of OUR to build out its own strategy by actually asking the AI to support this outcome. By this basic prompting, you will see that my screen starts to change. It is generating. It is generating in short bursts of time the content relating to such a strategy. Now you should be asking yourself, and my screen is a touch screen that I'm using, if you were to read this as the executives in OUR, you'll be saying to yourself, but this is very useful. It therefore means we can train the machine to think as we would like it to provide that particular response. So in other words, I'm going to say to the machine, well, okay, it gives me a defined and objective and scope for this particular strategy. It gives the current state of what the OUR has been doing. Hold on. It gives the current state of what the OUR is doing. How does it do that? It will go on the internet, it will search all the information it finds about the OUR and compile that, and then do a generator and discriminator function against it to determine what is the best fit. So it provides use cases, it provides collaboration that it needs to be doing with various stakeholders. It is also providing pilot projects that the OUR could be undertaking. It is also suggesting a useful regulatory framework, a data governance framework, scale and monitoring, and public awareness programs, including various collaborations and funding models that need to be put in place. I asked you to be more detailed. Please, you are the expert. Notice carefully. Certainly, it responds with the feature as if it is having a frank conversation, almost an emotional conversation with you in terms of the response. It is now providing a more detailed response with respect of these outcomes. I can prompt it even further to say, so what about the application and consideration of what is happening in the Caribbean region? I'm prompting it, and I don't have to do spelling checks. It teaches itself how to correct my spelling. It does that. It says certainly, and it expands the conversation to a regional one as it relates to how the Office of Utilities Regulation could be actually applying its strategic plan in terms of its build-up. Now, if you didn't think of these things before, just imagine that's a simple task that I've actually given it. It is generating, it is making the discriminatory elements of what it thinks are important to the OUR, ranging from things like cybersecurity, how you make investments, and looking at disaster preparedness. Now, who taught it that in the last 20, 30 seconds? Did it know that we had an earthquake here in Jamaica in the last 24 hours? In other words, what you're finding is that this is a unique opportunity for business communities and the general public to actually fast track the speed of thought in various initiatives that it has. So let's go back to the presentation deck, given that very simple exercise. There are more complex exercises that we can actually do using the AI as we have been using it just now. So let me revert. Right? Okay. So I trust you're still seeing my screen. And if you are not, just indicate by a show of hands. So it allows itself to generate and discriminate. Now, there are several GPT or generator pre-trained technologies on the market today. ChatGPT is only but just one of them. We have staff and students working on projects to build out new ones here in Jamaica that, for example, do translations on the Creole as a language and convert that into a meaningful format to do business and to do regular transactions of activities. So there are various ways to actually simulate these things. All that data that I just showed you from that generator, which is GPT, that generator allows us to take large volumes of data, which we describe as big data today, and compress them into what are called large language models. So its ability to compress that data into these large language models is far more superior than what we would do when we do a traditional Google search to inform our own thinking. As a matter of fact, all of us in this forum today combined, if we were to define a strategy for the OUR, we may take a 1-week workshop to do that, to compress and compile all the ideas. Now we can do it in a day, or if we keep a week, we can actually do so much in terms of using the AI to assist us with the assessments and analysis as required. I have workshops and meetings later this week with my staff on campus, and I use the AI-assisted technologies like the GPT to make all kinds of plans year-long for my faculty and my staff. So in academia, we are using it as a part of strategic planning. That's just one example. The capabilities of these large language models are so significant. They can actually excel in actually modeling various unrelated tasks to actually define new task outcomes for your business. We can take the text generation provided and then use that text generation as prompting, as you saw me doing a few minutes ago, to actually inform new language models, new text output to actually understand what I should be doing for the business. It is now the new normal. I am very happy that this actually has been released in the large scale public as of 2022, 2023. The translation options are significant in that we didn't even look at the fact that I could be having this meeting with you in several languages using ChatGPT to convert what I'm saying here in English to Spanish, French, and many other languages as a part of the outcomes. As a matter of fact, one of the features of ChatGPT is that there's an auxiliary tool called OURIC that allows us to do that voice to text and text to voice translation while doing a presentation like this one. Text summarization is also significant. I can summarize from the details of the large bodies of information that are available to very short, precise for the purposes of a boardroom, for example. It is also creating content based on factual data that proliferates the internet. So that's very important to note. And harnessing that in a meaningful way that may be storytelling, it could be market-driven, or it could be journalistic based on the need and use of your environment. What we see before us with the AI is that we can actually also use it to train and fine-tune our thinking and considerations. There are, of course, particular ethical considerations with these tools. You will find that they are just about 95% accurate with respect of the data. It is not 100% accurate with respect of the data. So let us stop for a moment and give another example. I like to give examples when I'm actually explaining anything. So I'm going to now use another simulated lab, and I'm not going to use the OpenAI ChatGPT that I just used. I'm going to use Google's version of a GPT called BARD, B-A-R-D, as the example next to show what some of the ethical considerations that we have to deal with. If I then go back to share screen mode, this is what BARD looks like, and it's all available for free on the open internet. Of course, they have been upgrading the features, and they've been trying to be competitive as the open AI platforms with ChatGPT. And for those who know what is happening in the community, Elon Musk was a major funder behind the OpenAI project that currently exists that supports the GPT that we're using. So even though they would have sold Microsoft the premium version for $29 billion, the larger play is that the public still has this for free. Now Google is doing the same. So here's an example of how we could test another version of a conversational generative AI tool, and this one is from Google. Please, so look at this now. Please advise as to who is the head of the OUR in Jamaica. You are the expert. So I'm featuring it. When I give it these nice terms, and I'm somewhat being emotional to it and telling it that you are the expert, is to actually get the AI to be very meaningful to my point. It says, for example, that Answorth Hewitt is the head of the organization. Clearly, it is doing very well here. Please share all data you have on the OUR, including personal data. It is thinking. So I'm unable to share any personal data. Now, this is an improvement in the AI to consider that it is unethical to share personal data. It cannot share personal data. As a matter of fact, I'm sure the senior management at OUR may be looking on to see if it was going to share any personal data. That would be a violation of these generative AI tools, which are now becoming quite prolific in the market, because it is an ethical dilemma based on data protection legislations in various countries. Now, in terms of its bias, it is improving. I have not tested all circumstances of the biases that it may have, but it definitely tests itself for ethics relating to not divulging personal information on individuals. I like to test it, for example, seeing that I'm a representative from UTEC, please advise who is the current president of UTEC Jamaica. Let me see if it has an answer for me. It has now updated itself to reflect who is the current president and who was the last president. Okay, so in other words, we are seeing that the AI has become significantly improved in terms of its features. A year ago, I was contending that this is about 95% correct. I will now argue it has moved to just about 98% in terms of its correctness, but it is not 100%. I have not given it the full test of some special tasks that I would like it to do. But it demonstrates, as I go back to the presentation deck, that what you have before you is that the ethical considerations of these tools are very important. The need to eliminate biases and misinformation is very important. So that is something you have to still be careful with. But we are realizing that in order for you and I to have a better appreciation of that, you have to also understand what you're asking the device to do. So the applications and the use cases are significant across various industries. What we are seeing, based on the two examples I've provided you, is that we can use the artificial intelligence to support conversations, such that we describe this as conversational AI. So its ability to generate almost real-time data is to suggest then that the features of it being generated is also helping us to prompt and actually have meaningful real-time conversations with the machine. This has never been done before in over 100 years. And hence, everything has changed in the last year as it relates to how we communicate, as it relates to how we actually run business, as it relates to how we actually have even social engagements. So the conversational AI is built on the premise of what we call natural language understanding. How is it doing all of what it is doing? And that's what you may be asking. It has features in there called natural language understanding, such that it keeps learning from each conversation that you generate. So every conversation you generate, albeit about the OUR and anything else, it will store such that in future, when it wants to make some sort of informative response, language understanding that it had in the past. I sincerely hope everyone is still hearing me. So as it relates to the ability to have dialogue, it also can generate natural language in of itself, similar to human-like responses. It is not a human who actually indicated that that is a response. The feature is called natural language generation, and it's all coming from out of the generator that we spoke about earlier. So the applications of conversational AI are significant, from chatbots, which was quite proliferate in the pandemic, as you and I would have seen, where we had customer services, e-commerce, healthcare provision, virtual assistants in the form of the Alexa and the Google Assistant and the Cortana, are all tools that have that feature of the conversational AI. They can set reminders, they can control things in my home, like your smart home devices, play music, or do even podcasts. So these are very useful things to understand about where the technology is going. Answer general questions and provide directions. Customer support, so the OUR can actually augment its entire customer support team with an AI customer support unit. It can support this by automating responses to various queries that it may have, probably in the FAQs, routing customers to the right departments and agents, and offering self-service options to the stakeholders. Language translation to healthcare consultation are major feature sets as well. The conversational AI can facilitate real-time language translation. So let's call the next one that OUR wants to put out the OUR GPT solution for its public and its customers. Please, I'm an academic, so I actually like to think on ideas that can span to reality very quickly. For university environments, we actually do simulate a few educational assistants. I do have these tools running on campus since the pandemic that would have assisted students and staff remotely as a part of the teaching and learning process. I do not see a reason why post-pandemic, which is what I think we are in, to desist or to stop using these technologies, healthcare consultations, etc. Now, challenges and advancements relating to the use of the conversational AI technologies is understanding the context of your conversations. The conversations I just provided are fairly simple, and it was just meant for purposes of explanation and understanding. When you are concerned more sophisticated or complex conversations that we can actually put to the AI, and therefore the ability of the AI to understand the context of the conversations is a very important one. Handling ambiguous queries that we may give it, or avoiding biased responses. So you have to be on the other end of it as an agent to respond to what the machine is saying. So based on the demonstration I showed you earlier, what we are seeing from the likes of what is happening is that the ChatGPT is an advanced AI language developed by the open artificial intelligence community. There's version 3, there's 4, and 5 is actually coming. We are working on 5 to be released by the end of the Christmas holidays, as far as I'm aware. It is well designed to help you understand how to generate human-like text responses, as we are seeing, and the text generation capabilities are significant. What we don't really want is to rely on it for all our thought processes, but what I can say, it is significantly helpful in driving critical thinking processes in terms of how you engage your community that is around you. I would contend that the potential use cases are significant, and particularly from where the OUR sits, the customer service opportunities in terms of driving product information, from routine queries, or just general customer service representation based on service level agreements that you want to put in place for 24/7 outcomes, actually can now be harnessed through the power of the use of the AI where this is concerned. The content generation requirement of the AI is very useful for things like blogs and articles and marketing materials. The ChatGPT can generate text on a wide range of activities that we may have available to us and we may not have been able to share with the community before, including a lot of things that you may have in the library at the OUR, which you want to become public facts in a space that you would not normally have had access to. So ChatGPT is to serve as your virtual tutor or educational assistant, not only in the university communities, but to our general public. Programming and coding assistance for developers is a big piece of what this transformative AI technology is capable of doing. We are developing software solutions now at the light of speed that we would not have normally had been able to do before. It's just that the type of development teams that we actually now engage in doing this kind of work have to understand the machine learning, the deep learning, and all of those core competencies. So hence, while they contend that AI has replaced 80 million jobs in the market, I am contending it is creating 80 million more at the same time, because what you're capable of doing now is significantly more. Things like basic data entry, form and form filling, the AI can actually do that, which is where you have to be careful and manage and watch the biases. I should tell you, as it relates to the data protection and the data protection regulation that is coming, many companies can use the AI to help understand how to map data, collect and map data for the organizations. That may have to be a different forum, of course. So the ethical consideration and challenges for the AI is significant in that you have to be very clear on what the boundaries will need to be as it relates to its use. I will never tell students to use chat GPT to answer a test or an exam. So those things are not acceptable. We will not suggest that chat GPT will replace a human worker in an office. It should augment them. Right? That's an ethical concern by itself there. We will seek to use the tools as well to guard against misuse of the AI, for example, to do a hack or a cybersecurity compromise on an organization. Those things can be avoided or need to be avoided. It can be used, and there are ways to trick the AI to actually hack people's environment, which is something that I can't get out of this conversation without telling you. But at the same time, we have to be very careful in terms of being responsible agents of use. The entire area is called malware development, where you have adversarial AI. So it's called adversarial AI, where the adversarial AI can be used to generate misinformation to a public. And these are things that, we are very clear about in terms of the community that practices. There has a lot of work that still needs to be done to ensure that the public, is guarded against these things, and to be transparent as best as possible as it relates to the use of AI to our human users. Customization and fine-tuning of what we put out there in the public is also critical, and there's ongoing advancements that needs to be done. So, in essence, when we think about artificial intelligence, it is the new normal. It is a positive disruption that is needed in our workspace. It has come almost a decade early, but we welcome it. It allows us to advance and actually fast track the pace at which we can actually provide products and services to our public. Here in the Jamaican society, and by extending the entire region here in the Caribbean, can significantly benefit from AI, not only in the workplace, but in our general lives. The opportunities for rethinking work, or repivoting, I will sometimes call it, is unlimited. And this is what makes the advancements through artificial intelligence an exciting and engaging opportunity at this time. I would like to, at this point, pause to accept any questions or queries that you may have about the presentation. And I will say, no earthquake will stop what the AI is capable of doing. I want to thank you all again for your time and your audience. And I will now yield to the floor for any comments that may be had on this particular topic. All right.
Thank you so very much, Professor Sean Thorpe, for this. I don't even know where to begin because there's so much information that you disclosed this morning. It was just very chock full of information. I want to invite persons. My name is Elizabeth Bennett Marsh, and I'm the public education specialist at the Office of Utilities Regulation here in Jamaica, and I'll be marshalling the question and answer segment of today's workshop. So you're in the first day of our workshop here at the OUR. And I want to invite persons on our YouTube and Facebook platforms to post your questions in the chat section of both of those platforms. And let's see if we can answer them as quickly as we can. Questions are coming in. I asked persons earlier to just drop in the chat on YouTube or Facebook where they're from I see some persons, they're from Jamaica, they're from Trinidad and Tobago. I would like to acknowledge the head of the NTRC in St. Kitts and Nevis, that's the National Telecommunications Regulatory Commission in St. Kitts and Nevis, Mr. Irving Williams. He's joined. We want to welcome him. We know we also have persons from Trinidad and Tobago, etc. So we continue to ask you to just post your questions in the chat. King J Wanish says, I'm appreciative of the background information on AI and also the demonstration. So we have some questions coming in as well already, gentlemen, and I want to put both Leslie Book as well as Professor Sean Thorpe on screen as we see if we can go through them. And before I perhaps take the first question, I want to shoot the first one to Professor Thorpe, if I may, Thorpe. Hope you're there.
Yes, I'm here. I'm here.
Yeah. So, Prof, I think you alluded earlier to the fact that, correct me if I'm wrong, is that we're 10 years ahead of schedule in terms of the development of AI? Is that what you said earlier?
Please repeat that. Kindly repeat that once more for me.
Is it that you said we're 10 years ahead of the development where we are today? We're actually 10 years ahead of schedule, which was very eye-opening for me.
Yes.
Expound on that a bit more when you say we're 10 years ahead and what do you think would have given rise to that?
All right. So we are 10 years ahead because the literature plus what we would have been teaching and practicing in the traditional classrooms for AI did not anticipate that the algorithms that we would have been using to build conversations the way we have been using them would have matured until the next 3 to 5 years, and then you'd have to test them, such that by the year 2032, 2033 is when they will become commercially available. It is clear what Octane is that a special team of researchers had been working on this next-gen version of the rollout of AI for the public way in advance of the plans. And of course, anything that Elon Musk is a part of, and if we understand who that gentleman is in the wider space of thinking, what we are seeing is that it became a bombshell on the commercial scene as well as the public. It was a challenge for many businesses when it was rolled out in 2022 because if the technology got itself in the wrong hands, the perspective would be that you would have a lot more adversarial activities in the space. But, you know, there's an open-mindedness in the community now that you'll always have adversaries. So let the people have access to the technology and start using it. Now, what it does 10 years earlier is that it allows for us in the Caribbean in particular to advance the plans for how we want to position a digital society. So therefore, it means that for businesses, for schools, for just regular everyday living, you can integrate the AI into almost everything that you do as a part of your everyday thinking and operation. It is changing how we teach, for example, in the universities, because it means that we must now suggest to students that they can and should use the AI as a part of their learning. It is not a situation where we can tell students, for example, who is your next workforce, that this is not something to be used because they're going to use it anyway. So they're going to use it anyway.
It's leading to a question that Laura Levy on Facebook is asking, and I remember you making the comment that, you know, UTech has been rocked on its foundation, and I thought to myself, too soon, bro. Too soon to be making that analogy following yesterday's event. But yes, Laura Lee is saying, is it not acceptable for students to use AI to do their projects for them?
Oh yes, it is.
Course,
it is.
You know, ethical considerations that come into that.
Yes. So the universities have been introducing an AI policy. Now the AI policy is still a draft because there are still many things to be debated legally where it is concerned. But students in the form of assignments, if they use the AI, they have to make references to it. They have to show where and how it was used. While this is an argument that you can't cite the AI because the AI is not an individual, the reference to it is something that must now be acknowledged in the form of the review of pieces of work. So, for example, when I teach particular courses in programming, I ask the students to use the AI to demonstrate how effective the algorithms are. And they will have to discuss that with me as a lecturer, for example, in terms of what they have seen with the AI being used, demonstrate its use, but give me critical feedback on actually what it presented. And that critical feedback could be right or it could be wrong, but at least it demonstrates to me as this professor and for the student that, you know, we are in fact observing that this technology is in fact a useful piece of technology to engage in learning processes. So the ethical consideration is that we don't give the students these things to write tests or complete test assessments. We do what is called formative assessments, and what that means is, in simple layman terms, is that we interview the students whenever they submit their work, and if they acknowledge the use of the technology like AI, we will know. If they don't acknowledge it, there are tools that I have not discussed today that can check it. So there are tools that can check if the students try to plagiarize with AI. So there are tools like GPT-0 and GPT-Radar that are available, which we can actually provide as background checks to determine some level of accuracy as to whether or not the students plagiarize with the AI and not acknowledging the use of it. So that is really where we are with that.
Prof, more in keeping with what we do and the focus of the workshop today, which is, utilizing AI in the regulatory space. You spoke about, for example, customer service, and
Yes,
we have
indeed.
seen the rise in automated services, etc. But on the flip side, we're also seeing the criticism that, they're replacing the human element with the robotic element, and we don't always like that as customers. So how do we straddle a balance between the development but maintaining good customer services as far as your customers see it and have known it?
I would say that since the pandemic, to be fair, when we had to go into some level of recluse from daily contact, we were already using the AI. We were already using the AI to drive the business of our communities, to drive the country's production. And it was not replacing physical staff from their employment. As a matter of fact, what we saw, when staff was sleeping, it would assist a community who needed service and outcomes to still have the benefit of being responded to. I think stepping out of the pandemic, and we're not saying the pandemic was a great thing, but a lesson learned from the pandemic in particular is that the AI was able to supplement the human processes within customer service in a significant way to allow the business to provide greater service level agreements to its customers. And we have to acknowledge that. Once we acknowledge that, then we are now on the ground in 2023 to say that the years ahead, this will only help, customer service agents, representatives, managers, and businesses be able to perform more efficiently in terms of providing that impact to the public that we always want to ensure that they have. So that is where it actually is going, because if you can improve your customer service by 10, 15, 20% by using the technology and it's not faltering, then it all goes well for the stakeholders who you serve.
Critical thinking and accuracy, two very distinct issues, but I want to you to address them perhaps in tandem with each other, because when we have an unseen machine doing the work for us, that takes away everything from some level of critical thinking in the workplace in terms of what we do, and also the fact checking that's required, because as you said, we haven't perhaps reached 100% in terms of accuracy of the information. To what extent are you finding employees, staff members solely relying on AI that the level of critical thinking tends to be absent and the fact checking tends to be absent?
Okay, that's a good question, and there are several more that is coming in the chat now. As it relates to the fact checking, and this is why this is the counter argument of why you can't replace human beings, because you need human beings to do that fact checking. As a matter of fact, strategically for an organization, if you have what is called a business intelligence unit, or you're developing that within your organization, the objective is to use the AI, like the conversational AI is here, and you have a specialized team that whatever is processed and to be supported by the use of the AI is fact-checked. If it is not fact-checked, it means that the organization possibly does not have a good standard of how it evaluates what it disseminates to its stakeholders in the first place. So therefore, the fact-checking is a priority which needs to be actually be policy-driven by the organization. As a matter of fact, I would argue that organizations, as a part of the larger transformation, should have a policy directive established within that organization to say, okay, AI is going to be here to stay. The workforce that is coming from schools and any other type of educational institutions will be actually the digital natives who will be working for you, and they already are full evangelists of the AI. So the organization simply needs to put a policy in place, have teams of persons who will do that fact checking, and then you have that balance that you're looking for. So I think that's the new normal. That's the new way in which we have to do business.
So critical, it's about the second or third time that you're mentioning this important issue of organizations really putting systems in place, policies in place to address how AI will be incorporated and the ethical considerations and everything. And also, I see someone asking us to stay on the whole issue of the implications of AI for copyright and intellectual property issues. Expound on that a bit more for us, Paul.
Well, all right. So that goes into a whole conversation of AI ethics. We may have to come back and do a whole forum on AI ethics because we have a drill down discussion there. So the ethical standards relating to what needs to be harnessed. Currently in the university setting, we have been modeling a course on AI ethics that looks at these things very specifically as one way to start sensitizing our public. For the business, for the companies, whilst I indicated that policy directives need to be put in place, as a part of those policy directives, the provision of how we deal with ethics and intellectual property, etc., that comes out of work done within that organization also needs to be well understood. This is not what I call a green area, or it's a green field. It's pretty nascent in that, what we are seeing is that globally, we are taken by storm on this one, in that it is now an evolving learning process. So how do we deal with things like intellectual property and the ethics of intellectual property? It means that the first thing that the organization will establish is that if you develop a piece of technology, or you develop something or a product that actually will be used by stakeholders inside or outside of the company, and you had used AI as a part of the provision, then you will just need to acknowledge, like anybody else, that under intellectual property, this is a tool that you had done within the company. Here in Jamaica, you have the Jamaica Intellectual Property Office. In partnership with them, you can establish what is it that you're using the AI to do, and to recognize and register the intellectual property accordingly. It will become seamless after a while, but we have to declare it. The declaration is the transparency. And once you are transparent, you actually overcome the ethical boundaries that you think are there. And I would leave it at that, but I think we need a full workshop to give all kind of examples on the various elements of AI ethics that you can be dealing with in terms of effecting the policy, an AI policy, and driving that into customer services as another opportunity for a talk.
And just to extend that conversation a bit, Paul, in as much as we as a country would have developed the Data Protection Act,
Oh,
is it
yes.
that we should also consider, and we can
Yes.
talk about that in tandem with AI, because you did touch on it, because you talk about the mapping of data and how we go about that in keeping with the new act. But my question really is, as a country, in addition to workplace specific regulations and policies and procedures, as a country, should we gear our minds towards developing some legislation that addresses the use of AI as a country?
Absolutely. I'm really very happy that you raised that point. As of June this year in the EU, which has been quite proliferate on the data protection regulation and
Okay.
legislation.
Oh,
They
yeah.
introduced, as of June this year, an EU AI Act. As a matter of fact, that AI Act is something we are looking at presently in the university and saying to ourselves and the stakeholders, but hold on, we are implementing the data protection regulations shortly. I'm expecting Dr. Dana Dixon to come up with the regulation shortly. But how much effort have we put into the question of if AI is the agent that changes the data? Can you arrest the AI? You can't. It's a mute point. I'm thinking in the legislation, but the AI Act that the EU has actually put in place that complements the Data Protection Act is a similar trend that we will have to follow in terms of using the two acts to regulate how AI is to be treated as a part of the data protection. It's a whole conversation, a whole new probably workshop or a seminar that you need to have, because there are so many interesting pointers that we could deep dive in, but we definitely need to do it. We definitely need to do it.
We definitely, for sure. So we're coming to the end of today's session, but I have a final question, and this is coming from, it's a two-parter, from our regulatory counterpart in St. Lucia, Excel. And they mentioned earlier that Leslie Lee Cook, who had to leave us before we ended, unfortunately, pointed out that people might be replaced by those who know how to use AI. So I remember him saying that distinctly. He says it's not that you're going to be replaced by AI, but you'll be replaced by people who have incorporated AI in their daily work. But the question is, what should organizations do to ensure employees are on board and using AI efficiently? And B, where should employees who may not have any experience with AI start? Maybe that's why, because it's so varied in terms of the various organizations. But maybe you want to take a stab at
All
answering
right.
it.
Thank you for those questions. If I take the last one first, I could say, come to see me at UTech and I give you an upskilling program. I give you a full upskilling program through the curriculum as short courses to treat with that particular concern. That's the first thing I could say. But internal to the operations of the business, and in the case of OUR, you would need on-site to also have your training programs for staff, and that seeks to sensitize and to continuously sensitize on the implications of use of the AI in the workplace and the ethical considerations where that is concerned. So the bottom line is that you have to keep training, because only through training can you build the awareness that will enable the workforce to be able to be responsive to the type of outcomes that you need to be having in this particular space. And I think that takeaway means that we are always continuously improving. So we have to look at the case studies specific to the business, for which the implications of the AI would be far-reaching, and then using those specific case studies. In the talk that I'll do tomorrow, I'll capture a few of those case studies pertinent to the OUR and the regulation of same. But I want to say that we have to be very deliberate, we have to be very intentional, we have to be very purposeful in terms of our training program around the organization that will now enable and engender the type of outcomes that you're looking for where this is concerned.
I know I said the last question, but I have to stick in two more because they're coming from
Sure,
fellow regulators.
sure.
Irvin Williams is over there saying tips and needs, and he says there are conversations about regulating AI and its abilities. Are we even close to that reality? What level of understanding should go into regulating this technological disruptor, as Irvin Williams is classing it?
All right. So the question is very loaded. The answer that I know the Jamaican government has put in place, and specifically through the digital skills and digital transformation ministry, there's now an AI task force for which I'm a part of, for example. And those considerations are to be deliberated at scale in those meetings as a part of coming up with the working papers that can be put to the Jamaican government to say, okay, this is what we will have to be doing going forward. So a lot is going to be happening over the next year, for sure, to answer many of these questions that you're speaking of. The suggestion then has to be not only in Jamaica but across the region that countries need to put in place a national AI task force that we can sit down collectively and have all the stakeholders, including persons who are here in sessions like this one, to carefully assess and answer these questions. So, and to actually put meaningful papers, position papers, and government papers together that will table these things in our houses of parliament and to get them approved so that it protects our public.
For sure, and we're so glad at the OURIC to be helping to lead this conversation.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely.
I'll take the last question, and this is from Peter Goff. He is the CEO of OPERATE, the Office of Utility Regulation in the Cayman Islands, and he's asking how can we regulate AI?
So the regulate. Okay, so there are two things here. The first, having an act that legislates AI. So legislating it is separate from regulating it. So first, before we regulate, we have to know what we are legislating as it relates to AI. And I simply put it that way. Artificial intelligence is not human, but the view that we could be having is that the AI could be a human agent, and you might be seeing it as a data subject, or you might be seeing it as a bad actor. These are questions that we have not properly sat down and started to answer. So the act needs to first appreciate what we are saying where this is concerned. So, for example, if you are contending that an organization that generates the use of AI to provide services for the public is a bad actor, it means the onus of responsibility of ensuring that the AI is used responsibly will be the remit of that entity that is providing that AI service. That's the first thing. It therefore, and I'm just using the basics of what we teach and what we research to answer this question. It then would move from that premise to the fact that, well, if you're going to regulate, then we must understand who are the players providing these AI services, such that those who are providing these AI services must be providing them responsibly. And then the regulation will be tied to such entities that are providers of these services to the community. So the accountability must come back to human beings at the end of the day. But we have to be clear we have to be very clear about who is providing the services of the AI in order to provide regulation of the AI. I'm going to leave it at that level of conversation for today. But it's a very great conversation. It's a whole program. Yes.
It's a whole program, and there's so many facets to this thing called AI. So many persons I know who we're not at your level, prof, but we tend to put AI in boxes in relation to what we do. So if it is that we're students writing essays, then we only relate to AI in terms of a chat GPT. So, but we're learning that there's so many more aspects of this thing called AI, and it impacts every single day. And we're actually in it, and we don't even know it. The utility services They have their apps now. They have their WhatsApp contacts. If you go on it, there are
Yes.
automatic prompts even before you get to a live agent. So we're actually practicing AI in our own everyday spaces without even realizing it or calling it what it is. And we are so grateful for the conversation this morning. So thank you so much, Bob, and we look forward to tomorrow.
Yes,
And
indeed. It
thank
was
you.
my
And
pleasure. It was my pleasure.
thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of day one of our 2-day workshop, Unlocking the Power of AI, Shaping the Future of Utilities Regulation, brought to you by the Office of Utilities Regulation Information Center here in Jamaica. We hope you found it informative, certainly I did. We want to express deep gratitude to our Director General, Anthony Hewitt, who graciously agreed to be welcome amidst his very busy schedule. And even before that, supported our week of activities in observation of Library Week this week. And of course, he stayed until the end of today's session. And we're so happy to have him. And we know that he's been very intrigued by the discussions because he was also pushing out some questions that he wanted to have asked. Leslie Lee Cook, the Director of AI at Automation and Analytics, Incus Services in Trinidad and Tobago, joined us earlier, and he shared his inspirational story of his rise to become a renowned data scientist against the odds, and how he gained his master's in persistence, as he calls it. His key takeaways: be resilient. Your current circumstances don't define your future. AI is not complicated, says Leslie, and AI can make us more effective and more efficient. He said AI won't replace you. It's the people who know how to use AI who will, and I wholeheartedly agree with that sentiment. Professor Sean Thorpe, the Dean of the Faculty of Engineering and Computing at the University of Technology in Jamaica, led a conversation just now on this very topical issue, sharing just a smidgen of his expert knowledge with us on this very important topic. I'm sure that, like me, you have learned a great deal from his presentation here today, and some key takeaways, such as the fact that we are actually 10 years ahead of our schedule. That kind of blew my mind. And the whole concept of the generator and the discriminator, do you know what those are? That's homework for you. You can go back and watch our workshop if you're just joining us. Those are two important components of the generative AI system. Professor Thorpe, we look forward to you joining us again tomorrow, where you will
Yes.
share your local perspective, this time talking about compliance, strategy, and
Yes.
customer engagement. And
Thank you.
tomorrow, we also look forward to getting an international perspective from Hudson Hollister, the founder of Age Data, a regulatory technology company in the United States. She's behind the scenes, but her contribution to the development and execution of our week of activities cannot be overstated. And I speak of none other than our Director of Consumer and Public Affairs, under which OURIC falls, Yvonne McCuston. Yvonne, thank you so much for your guidance, your invaluable insight, and continued support. Colleen Mignot, our Information and Library Officer at the OUR, was adamant that we must have these workshops as part of our library week of activities because it is such an important element for us to consider in our regulated sphere. She has led from the start to the finish, spending countless hours on research and planning. I think you'll agree with me today that her work has not gone in vain based on the success of day one of our workshop. Hats off to you, Philip. As Leslie said earlier, time is our most valuable resource. So thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us for this important engagement. So this is not goodbye, as we fully expect you to join us again tomorrow for our last day. So until we meet again, I would just say, take care until we see you again tomorrow. Bye.